Hi everyone. This is Warren. Welcome to Business Survival Kit. Have you ever walked away from a conversation thinking, how did they not understand what I was trying to say? Maybe it was a customer. Maybe it was your boss. Maybe it was your spouse. You explained everything clearly. You answered every question. You even had facts to back up your argument. And yet somehow, nothing got through. Most people assume this means they're bad communicators. But what if that's not the real problem? What if the issue isn't what you're saying, but how the other person is wired to receive it? Think about it this way. Imagine someone is using a 3G phone. Meanwhile, you're sending them a 5G signal. The signal itself isn't bad. It's actually better. The problem is that the receiver can't process it. Communication works the same way. You can have the best idea in the world. You can be absolutely right. But if you're communicating on the wrong frequency, your message won't land. In fact, it may even create resistance. The other person might think you're annoying, pushy, confusing, or completely out of touch. Not because your message is wrong, but because your frequency doesn't match theirs. That's where DISC becomes incredibly useful. DISC gives us a simple framework for understanding how different people think, decide, and communicate. And once you understand it, you'll start noticing patterns everywhere. You'll know why some customers buy immediately while others need weeks. Why some managers want quick answers while others want detailed reports. Why some people love data and others couldn't care less. Most importantly, you'll learn how to adjust your communication style to fit the person in front of you. Don't try to diagnose people. Before we get into the 4 DISC personalities, let's get one thing straight. DISC isn't mind reading. And people aren't permanently locked into one personality type. Human beings are far more complicated than that. In reality, people can display different traits depending on their role, environment, stress level, and situation. The goal isn't to perfectly label someone. The goal is to quickly identify the communication style they're using right now. Fortunately, people leave clues everywhere. The words they choose. How fast they speak. Whether they focus on facts or feelings. Whether they ask about risks or opportunities. Even their body language can tell you a lot. Once you know what to look for, you can often identify someone's dominant communication style within the first 30 seconds of a conversation. Let's start with the easiest one to recognize. D-type, dominance. Have you ever met someone who seems to enter every room like they already own it? That's usually your first clue. D-types often come across as confident, assertive, and highly focused on results. They speak quickly. They interrupt. They challenge ideas. They make decisions fast. And they're usually more interested in getting answers than hearing explanations. If a D-type asks, "What luxury SUVs do you have?" they don't want a 10-minute discussion about why they're shopping for one. They don't want a history lesson. They want the answer. Fast. This is where many people make a mistake. They start with context, background, details, reasons. D-types don't care about any of that until they've heard the conclusion. So when dealing with a D-type, remember one simple rule: lead with the answer. Explain later. If you're presenting a problem, bring solutions. If you're selling something, focus on outcomes. If you're making recommendations, narrow the choices. The more direct you are, the more credibility you'll have. One more thing. D-types care about competence. They don't mind disagreement, but they hate wasting time. And they absolutely hate being embarrassed in front of others. Protect their status. Be concise. Be confident. And get to the point. I-type, influence. Now let's talk about the person who's probably already told 3 stories before finishing their first point. That's the I-type. They're energetic, social, optimistic, and highly relationship-driven. Unlike D-types, who focus on results, I-types focus on people. They love conversation. They jump between topics. They think out loud. And they often make decisions based on how something feels, rather than how it looks on a spreadsheet. Here's the mistake many professionals make with I-types: they overload them with information. Product specifications. Technical documents. Spreadsheets. User manuals. The I-type doesn't want homework. They want a story. They want a vision. They want an experience. In many cases, an enthusiastic 5-minute demonstration will outperform a 50-page proposal. The biggest lesson: build the relationship before pushing the product. Because I-types often buy people before they buy solutions. If they trust you, they'll listen. If they like you, they'll recommend you. And if they become excited about what you're offering, they'll tell everyone they know. S-type, steadiness. S-types are often the most overlooked people in the room. They're usually quiet, calm, patient, and highly considerate of others. Unlike D-types, they don't rush. Unlike I-types, they don't seek attention. They value consistency, reliability, and trust. If you're speaking with an S-type, you'll often hear questions like, what have other customers experienced? Do you have testimonials? How does the support process work? What happens if something goes wrong? Notice the pattern: they're trying to reduce uncertainty. S-types don't necessarily need the most exciting option. They need the option that feels safest. That's why customer reviews, guarantees, case studies, and clear processes are so powerful with them. One of the best things you can do with an S-type is simply listen. Seriously listen. When they decide to share their thoughts, don't rush them. Don't interrupt. Don't finish their sentences. Just give them space. You'll often learn far more by listening than by talking. C-type, compliance. Finally, we have the C-type. If you've ever received a 6-paragraph email with bullet points, charts, and references attached, you've probably met one. C-types are analytical, logical, detail-oriented, and extremely careful about making decisions. Before they buy anything, they've usually done their homework. Sometimes they know almost as much as the salesperson, maybe more. That's why exaggerated claims rarely work on them. Neither does pressure. Neither does hype. What works? Evidence, data, comparisons, documentation, proof. When speaking with a C-type, don't focus on emotions. Focus on facts. Show your reasoning, back up your claims, and be prepared to answer detailed questions. Because for a C-type, trust isn't built through enthusiasm. It's built through accuracy. The real secret to better communication. Most people spend years trying to become better communicators, but the biggest breakthrough often comes from a simple realization: you don't need to communicate better, you need to communicate differently. The same message can fail with one person and succeed with another. Not because the message changed, but because the delivery changed. Imagine you're trying to convince your partner to take an overseas vacation. Would you tell a D-type it's the cheapest package available? Probably not. A D-type may care more about exclusivity, convenience, and premium experiences. Would you tell an S-type it's a brand new tour with no customer reviews? Definitely not. They'd probably become more nervous than excited. Instead, you'd show them testimonials from happy travelers and proof that everything runs smoothly. Same trip, different frequency. And that's exactly what DISC teaches us. When you learn to identify someone's frequency and adjust your message accordingly, communication becomes easier. Sales become easier. Leadership becomes easier. Relationships become easier. Because at the end of the day, communication isn't about saying more, it's about making sure the other person can actually hear what you're saying.